Could the future governor of Wisconsin have once called to dismantle the very institutions meant to protect its citizens? We're talking about a Democratic socialist candidate whose past statements are now at the center of a political earthquake, forcing a critical conversation about public safety and the direction of the Democratic Party. Before we continue, if you want to stay on top of everything happening in U.S. politics, hit that subscribe button right now and leave a like. It really helps this channel grow. The candidate in question is Wisconsin State Representative Francesca Hong. In a series of social media posts, dating back to 2020, Hong expressed strong support for defund, then abolish, the police. These statements were made in the volatile aftermath of the George Floyd and Jacob Blake incidents, events that deeply shook the nation and prompted widespread calls for police reform. Hong's rhetoric, particularly her August 2020 post obtained by CNN, unequivocally stated, "I support defunding the police as a first step towards abolishing the police." This isn't just about past sentiments, it's about how these ideas translate into policy and leadership. Hong made these remarks both before and during her tenure as an elected official. In the wake of Jacob Blake's shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin, an incident where Blake was shot 7 times by police responding to a domestic disturbance, leaving him partially paralyzed, Hong voiced her outrage. She stated, "Jacob Blake is fighting for his life, but he shouldn't have to be. We must also fight for his life and get justice for all those harmed by state-sanctioned violence." It's crucial to note that Blake had a pocket knife that fell from his pocket during the altercation, which he then picked up before being shot. Further solidifying her position, in October 2021, Hong again weighed in on the issue as an elected official, this time in response to federal prosecutors deciding not to file charges against Officer Rustin Shesky. Her post read, "How is 7 bullets in the back not excessive force? Police exist to uphold white supremacy. Defund then abolish. Reform can't be an option. My heart breaks for the trauma the Blake family and their community continues to endure." These are powerful, unambiguous statements that clearly articulate a position far to the left of mainstream Democratic thought. However, in a recent statement to Fox News Digital, Hong appeared to temper her earlier remarks, though she stopped short of explicitly disavowing her past calls to defund or abolish the police. She stated, "There is no way I want to cut resources for public safety. I don't like crime. I don't like unsafe streets. I also don't like when a member of law enforcement abuses their power." She added, "Everyone deserves the resources they need to be safe, including housing, good-paying jobs, mental health supports and community resources. As governor, I will look at every part of the state and work with local leaders to shape solutions that address our immediate needs." This pivot aims to reassure voters concerned about public safety, but the stark contrast with her earlier pronouncements raises questions about her genuine intentions and the depth of her commitment to these radical ideas. Hong is not operating in a vacuum. She's part of a crowded primary for the Democratic nomination in Wisconsin, endorsed by prominent progressive figures like Representatives Ilhan Omar and Ro Khanna. The primary election is set for August 11, and Hong is engaged in a tight race with former Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, the 2022 Democratic nominee for Senate. The winner of this primary is likely to face Republican Representative Tom Tiffany, a member of the House Freedom Caucus. Tiffany wasted no time in seizing on these developments. In a statement to Fox News Digital, he criticized both Hong and Barnes, stating, "This is what today's Democrat Party has become. Whether it's Francesca Hong doubling down on abolishing the police or Mandela Barnes calling to empty prisons while pushing to end cash bail, they are both far-left radicals who care more about protecting criminals than the innocent people harmed by their crimes." Tiffany's campaign also pointed to older statements from Barnes, who has advocated for cutting the prison population in half and introduced legislation a decade ago to end cash bail. This narrative frames the Democratic primary as a battle between radical leftists and sensible mainstream politicians, a common tactic in U.S. political discourse. What does this all mean? It means that the Democratic Party is grappling with internal divisions over fundamental issues of public safety and criminal justice reform. Hong's past statements, while potentially galvanizing a progressive base, could alienate moderate voters and law enforcement supporters. Her attempt to backtrack or reframe her positions highlights the political tightrope she's walking. The Republican opposition is clearly leveraging these past statements to paint the entire Democratic ticket as extremist. The outcome of this primary, and potentially the general election, will have significant implications for Wisconsin. Policies related to policing, crime, and public safety are paramount for any state's well-being. If Hong or Barnes were to win, their approaches to these issues would directly impact communities across Wisconsin. Furthermore, this race is a microcosm of a larger national debate within the Democratic Party about how to balance calls for systemic reform with the everyday concerns of voters about safety and security. So what do you think about this? Should a candidate who is called to abolish the police be considered a viable contender for governor? Drop your opinion in the comments below. I read every single one. This story is a stark reminder that in politics, words matter, and past statements can indeed come back to define a campaign. The voters of Wisconsin will ultimately decide whether these positions are a bridge too far, or a necessary step towards a more just and equitable future.